Hello everyone, welcome back to Everything Swift. Today we'll be tackling Leetcode question 83 titled Remove Duplicates from Sorted List. We are given a linked list type list node here and we're supposed to return one as well, whereby the return version is basically non-duplicated nodes within the linked list. So I think the example here is pretty much straightforward. We are given a linked list basically of type list node here, it's declared here, which is represented in this parameter here, and basically we are supposed to remove the duplicate. And in this case, in this example here, which is 1 1, so it becomes the return output is 1 and 2 because 1 1 is the duplicate, right? So seems simple enough to know what we are supposed to do. The question is just like how we're supposed to do it, right? So in this version of linked list is basically called a singly linked list, which means like the only direction is basically next. Like we don't know anything previously, right? So the other version, which is like doubly linked list, which means we can either know next and also the previous. So that's doubly, but for this case, we only have a singly linked list, which is just going on to next, right? So if we think this through, we need a way to compare the numbers. That is a given, right? Like we need a way to know whether there's a duplicate, and to know that we are basically going to take, like using this example, we're going to take the first number, for example in this case first node, and compare it to the next node, right? And then we're supposed to find out if they are basically the value of the node, is it matching. If it is, we're supposed to break the link between the first node and the subsequent node, the duplicated node, and point it to the next node, essentially, right? So this question is pretty good, I would say, because it serves as a foundation in terms of like how do we want to delete an item in a linked list, in a singly linked list, basically. And when we do further question, any related linked list question, this pattern is quite common. So it's pretty useful to try and understand this question and try and recognize the pattern. So uh, the strategy here is basically like we have to hold the value of the first node and compare it with the second node. If it is the same, we're basically going to break the link by changing the next to the next of this pointer to here, right? So that we are basically not removing it, like deleting or anything. We're just changing the pointer from this particular node to the next one, right? So I think the code is pretty much simple, and that will probably clarify my explanation much better. So I'm just going to jump straight into the code. Um, let's talk through about that. Head equals to nil. I'm going to return nil. So essentially, if there's no linked list to begin with, then pretty much there's nothing to check. So I'm just doing this for performance reason. In the real world, this is probably helpful, but in the world of Leetcode, unless specified, it's probably redundant. But it's just a habit of mine. So okay, so now what we need to do is basically we need to somehow get this reference, right? And then we're going to compare it with the next node. And then we're going to traverse through the list node. So the first thing we're going to do is get the reference. So I'm going to create a variable here called current and point it to the head here. So what we're going to do now is we have to traverse through the entire linked list until we ran out of the nodes. So how we're going to do that is basically just check if current equals to nil or not. So let's say the current is not nil. We basically want to compare the current node's value with the next node value, right? So we basically just store it in a constant for next node current dot next. So the only reason why I can confidently force unwrap here is because I know within this while loop the current is never going to be nil, so I'm just force unwrapping here. And then what we're going to do now is basically compare the current value and the next node value, right? So next node dot val, if it's equals to current dot val, right? So what happens now? So now in this if condition, we have found a duplicated number. So we need to break the link of the current node to the next node, right? So current dot next equals to next node dot next, essentially, right? Else, so let's say if this number 1 and then the next number is 2, so it's not a duplicate, right? So basically we need to move our current node to the next node so that we can keep comparing them throughout the entire linked list chain, right? So we are at this point here, and then now let's say we have compared with this specific node that is not the same. Imagine this number was 2, so basically we don't have to break the link, we just need to move forward to this linked list, and then we can compare this node with the subsequent next node, and then we can see whether we need to break the link or not. Alright, so to do that we just have to set current.next equals to current.next. So basically from this node move forward to the next one. And once that operation is done, once we traverse the entire linked list, basically we have removed the duplicated node, and then what we need to do is just return head, which is the modified version of the linked list, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and run it first just to make sure that I got it right. And looks good. I'm going to submit this and hopefully, yep. So that's the answer for this question. But just to recap here, the most important thing is try to recognize this pattern here, like current.next equals to next node.next, or you can also write it as like current.next.next if that makes it easier for you to understand. But essentially, this pattern here, this particular line here, is very important for us to recognize in the linked list. Kind of like many questions sort of like use this kind of format in some way, so this pattern here is quite useful for you guys to recognize to break the link in linked list. So in this case, using this example here, what happens is the next node is basically 1 and current is basically 1. So we found a duplicate, basically the current of this next. So this particular line is basically what we are saying here in this line 21. We're taking this pointer, pointing it to this number 2, which is the current next dot next, which is next and then next again, right? So we're just breaking this link here and pointing it to 2. So yeah, I hope this video is pretty helpful for you guys. If you do, please feel free to like and subscribe, and please feel free to share this channel. I'm trying to grow this channel as well, and I'm gonna put more videos like this out in the future. So thanks for your time, take care, and bye bye.